we've got, we need to get started on their work session. Again, I apologize for that, but we'll get this thing going here now. Welcome everybody here to our work session. First thing on the work session agenda. You go. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and start this if it's okay. This bipolar project that we've been working on. Joe, you listening?
Pardon?
Are you listening?
Not even.
The bipolar project, we need to discuss that. We put these people off, and we're not gonna do any more tabling tonight. We're gonna get some things off the table and start with a clean slate. Now, with this project, Mr. Smith?
I guess it's just a discussion. We knew where we was at, if anything changed. I think Jamie had talked to the today. I was in there and listened, so.
I had, as pursuant to the board's instruction, I had first reached out, and I copied the board on the email I got back that, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Sebastian said that the comptroller could not grant its approval. That was the condition of the motion that's on before you, at the suggestion of the vendor, and at their encouragement. Mr. Smith and I spoke with Brian Berkland today, and I summarized what that conversation realized in an email to the board earlier today. It was just as soon as I could get it typed out and the phone. Mr. Berkland took a more neutral approach for sure. He was very open and very good to talk to us. He did confirm that the open letter that kind of started this issue was distributed by the comptroller at the request of the lieutenant governor. He was clear that the comptroller itself could not make a determination of the scientific effectiveness of this product, but wanted the school systems to be aware of all the information. He was later made aware that some competitors may have had some involvement in the letter. The primary concern from the comptroller's perspective is the procurement process, is how you buy it. Now, this is the cart kind of drives the horse to some degree in this, in that the way this was bought through the process we bought it was because there's a statute that exempts it from bidding if it's energy efficiency, if it's energy efficient. He could not give an opinion on whether or not it was energy efficient or not. He could provide no opinion to the technology, but he advised us to check with any other systems to see whether they realized any energy efficiency. He was not advocating for or dismissing the product and all. He seemed to be taking a neutral approach. What I had received, and I ended the email, what I had gotten from Ed Sebastian back on October 25th, I have not seen a follow-up email or any kind of rescission of what he had sent me. So that is where you stand. And I can't tell you from a legal standpoint that you have the comptroller's approval. Can't necessarily tell you have their disapproval, but motion reads like it reads.
And that's what I was fixing to address there. Mr. Manning made the motion. Mr. McCaleb, he seconded. Am I correct here? And he also he seconded the motion, but then it was set up that there was an amendment to that motion that included pending approval from the state comptroller, and we can't get that. So, anybody else got any discussion on this? I think that pretty well says it. Any more questions on it? Mr. Smith, you like to add anything? I mean, it's pretty well in black and white, approval from the state comptroller, and we can't get that. So, that's about all anybody else got anything?
But the problem is, how you gonna get rid of this motion? Can't reconsider it.
No.
I mean, we can't.
I don't think you can get rid of it if it ever gets approved by the.
The motion stands as it stands.
Stands.
If that comes,
And if we get approval from the comptroller,
We can't do it. I mean, we can't do it unless we get approval.
that's correct. But if we get, what you're saying though, if we do get an approval from them, that motion still stands as
It's
is.
correct. Even, it might not be taken out of this particular money, it might have to come from GP, but.
We're
we would be
obligated-
obligated to buy it.
We're obligated to buy this equipment if comptroller from the state says they're okay with it. Till then, issue's over.
We need to, did we have the extra money in here for this? I know we.
It's not come in, but it was pre-approved.
Well, I think we'll have to change that deal, won't we?
Yeah, well, that's something we'll have to,
Yeah, that'll have to be readdressed. So,
But that extra money, it could be used for like roofs or things of that sort,
yeah.
roofing.
Mr. Apple, where we're at on this, the motion that was made to do this was on the approval from the comptrollers. We can't get an approval. As it stands, the issue's over. Unless now, as Mr. Manning brought up, that is if the comptroller in the near future does approve this, then we're obligated to buy this equipment from these people. Because that's the way the motion was set up and seconded and approved there. So I wanted to let you know exactly where we're standing on this.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add to it?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's clear as, you know,
But are we gonna leave them hanging with the equipment?
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
The comptroller's office doesn't approve or disapprove ever. We had a meeting October 20th in Nashville. The comptroller, Jason Mumpower, is sitting right beside me. His assistant was sitting on the other side of him. And he told me multiple times, Todd, we have no issues with your product whatsoever. And then I found out yesterday, after I talked to Jamie, and I talked to Brian Berkland, that Ed Sebastian was way out of line in telling Smith County not to use GPS. He was referring back to the open letter. He said he was out of line. He's not supposed to do that. Because my question to Jason was, you know, why is the comptroller's office telling school districts what air purification system to use and not to use? And he said, we don't. And I said, well, you did. So then when they asked Ed Sebastian about it, he admitted it. And from what I was told yesterday, he was told not to have any contact with Smith County Schools again because of what he did. So, I mean, you're not going to get approval, and they've made that clear to me, and Jason even said that. He said, but we have no problem with it whatsoever. We're just not going to stamp and say approved, and we should have never stamped and said disapproved, which is what they did. So going back to the motion, I mean, you were never going to get approval from them, and they told me that 10 times in the last 2 weeks. So I've had contact with them almost daily. Since that meeting on the 20th, we had EESI Paul Cross that initially sent the letter from the comptroller to the open letter to be sent out. He was there. He's supposed to be sending out a rebuttal to that, saying, you know, hey, you know, this never should have been sent out. It's a competitor's letter. It has, you know, GPS has refuted everything that's in it. But so far, that letter has not been sent out. But as far as the comptroller in motion, this is the only thing I wanted to say was you're not going to get that. I mean, I can tell you that right now. But, I mean, they're not disapproving it either. They have no problem with their technology whatsoever. The governor himself wrote the letter to approve it for Shelby County Schools. And that was over $3 million worth of equipment and installation. So the governor is on board, but for some reason this open letter got out, which started all this. And the open letter was distributed by our competitor. And now there's a lawsuit. We've already been in discovery, and we've got emails, and this is all public knowledge now. And they said in their emails, we need to start a public backlash against GPS. And that's what they did. They made up this story, they sent it out, and unfortunately it's caused a lot of issues.
If I just say
Go
one
ahead, sir.
thing, I'll be real brief. I don't disagree with anything you said.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna say this. I think what's hinging us is the motion and the second and the way it passed, the language said on approval from the state comptroller,
Right.
which now we've all learned we're not going to get because of this plethora of whatever that's flown round since then. So that's where we're hung. I mean,
Right.
I think that's what's got us. He's not going to do it. That's why the motion and the second went, and that's how the board voted.
And then last meeting, I asked for the amendment, and, you know, we failed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we tried to do that and it failed.
I'm setting a lot of GPS units, if anybody would like to buy any, that I purchased for Smith County Schools.
Any more discussion?
Well, I feel bad on my part. I'll just tell you guys that I feel like it was something that we needed. I think it's something we still need and we can use. And I feel like we've left you hanging, and I agree with you, sir, that the comptroller had no right to tell us. I think it was politically motivated.
It was.
And even within this little county, I think it was someone didn't like it, and, you know, unfortunately, I would like to help these, I would like to, is there any way to get this back? Mr. Winkler, is there any way to pick this back up, or, I mean, we ended on what kind of vote, Tommy? It was, you made them, who made the first, who made the second amendment?
Let me intervene right here just a second. I think you told us that the governor sent the letter to Memphis to okay to do it. He needs to send us one okaying it, it's all right to do it, and we're ready to go.
Well, that's gonna be hard to do. What happened was,
But now, he done it once.
Exactly.
For Memphis, I know we're not no ways as big as Smith County is just a dot on the map. But if he done it for Memphis, he can do it for us, and once he does it, you're ready to go.
what happened there, the reason he got involved, there was a lawsuit filed against Shelby County Schools, and they needed to reopen, and they sent the letter, they sent the letter to the governor saying, here's the steps we want to take to reopen, do you approve this? And he said yes. So, you know, that was a little different situation with a lawsuit, that's why he got involved.
So, anything else? Not, let's move on. One-time COVID-19 appreciation bonus. Mr. Smith, y'all all had a chance to look at all this. Do we have, we'll discuss it.
Is that what the other counties around doing, something similar to that, or?
Well, they've done different things. We couldn't take this out of, it wouldn't be out of the grant, it wouldn't be, it'd have to come out of GP the way we brought it up here, because we didn't have any planning. So we would have to take it out of the GP fund to do it. We have the money there to do that. I do feel like, us bringing it up, there's some teachers and educational assistants and stuff that kind of plan on it for Christmas now. That's a decision we've got to make here, but it would be for, and I would suggest you do it for every employee if you do it, you know what I mean? We've had a lot of teachers and EAs asking about it because of the schedule.
If we do it for every employee, can we not do it $1,000 for every employee?
That's what we were talking about for every, if that's what I recommend, that's your decision, but I'd recommend it for every employee.
That's not what's written
I know
here.
what's
We've got uncertified people getting $500, so.
No, I think it's 500 if they only worked a certain time. It was, if it is, it's put in there wrong. What we recommended, what I talked to Norm about was cross.
Let me read it.
Okay,
Okay.
make sure, and there's some stuff in there, like if you got employed after a certain time.
Yeah, I read
Yeah.
that, and I just read where it says full-time employees.
Classified, that is your EAs, your bus drivers,
Okay.
classified, certified, and school nutrition, full-time employees who were employed prior to October 1, 2021, and remain employed through December 17, 2021, will qualify for a $1,000 bonus.
That's for everybody. I mean,
Yes.
It's
yeah.
everybody.
That's everybody.
And there is a provision in there if you started late, you know, it wouldn't be fair if Rick started the next day, today, and get the same as I did.
And then, yeah, if you don't mind, let's look at the next one, just.
But we didn't
because.
want them not to get nothing.
Right, right. Classified, certified, and school nutrition workers employed between November 1st because we have had some employed after November 1st, 2021 will qualify for a $500 bonus. And then, if they're employed part-time, it will be a $500 bonus payment.
How many of those part-time employees do we have?
Probably just guessing 20, it'd be night shift custodians,
Or a bus monitor.
some bus monitors, you know, I could get you an exact list, but I'm guessing 20.
I think that's a fire bonus.
And I asked Mr. Smith that we do this before Christmas.
Yes.
You know, to try to help them out, to have a little
Yeah.
extra spending money for Christmas. And I said, and he and Miss Norma have worked together, put several hours into it to get the money worked around where we can do it, to get it to
We
them.
think we could get it in the Christmas.
Yeah, get it in their Christmas check to help them out.
That's next month, December 15th, check.
That's when we got,
We gotta move to that.
Yeah. Will they go in their regular check, or will that be a whole separate check? Because
I think it goes in.
I think it will just go in, but I don't know, Randy, I can find out.
Any more questions on it?
Where was where did we decide that the funding would come from?
Where would it come from? It come out of general purpose fund. It'd have to, because,
From us or from the county?
oh, it come to us, yeah.
From us. Yeah, county won't have anything to do with it.
What percentage is gonna be the general fund?
Sir,
What percentage of that is it gonna be for the total, the GP? What percentage?
what percentage of the total? You'd be about 5%.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah, that would be, could it be reimbursed by that?
Yeah.
Is what I'm
Could it be
sorry.
reimbursed by the?
No, you won't get reimbursed on this.
I'm talking about from the grant money. It can't go back
Because
into it.
it has to be, it would have to be recognized and written in and got pre-approval before we got it.
Yep.
But, you know,
Well, no, we're
hopefully
not-
we're gonna get that, a roof or something we're gonna replace anyway, you know what I mean?
So
But
we
it would
basically
get-
take the roof money, put it in the ESSER, and take the roof money we had in general
Yeah,
budget.
well, right now, we've been fortunate enough, all of the roof money is written into ESSER, then there's another ESSER, there's 3. Now the infrastructure grant, we're hoping we'll get all our, we've got a plan to get everything done, hopefully it don't cost us anything. So we shouldn't have any expenses we're hoping come out of our general purpose. We're hoping, you know what I mean, it's just something, because we know this diesel's going nuts again.
Right, fuel's
Six
going
point
up,
eight.
gas going up.
Yeah, I mean, I look for, you know, was it, you two wasn't back on the board yet, some of you would, when we had the $5 diesel.
Yeah,
I-
I was.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're headed that way.
But it's not going to county commission, we're not asking them for.
No, we're not asking him back for anything.
No, we're not asking nobody for nothing, we're doing this in-house.
I think it's a
And we
fire
do that,
proposal.
if Something comes up,
Well, that's the point.
I don't put myself in no bind, you know.
I mean, anything catastrophic can come up and get us, but we felt like it was introduced and we felt like we needed to do it once it was introduced to do.
Well, Gina and I talked too, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but felt like a lot of teachers had kind of planned on it. I think it affects, that's the reason I wanted to do it across the board, and I'm telling you and some others you did too, but, you know, probably obviously, we don't pay anybody, we don't pay our educational assistants and our bus drivers and what they're worth, and that it is what it is. I mean, but it probably means more to them, it does the upper level of our income of our staff, and so that's the reason I hate to me, I know as a principal, a lot of times my custodian was the most important person in the building, not the math teacher, and I don't mean that bad. Because I get subbed to math teacher for a day, it hurt the test scores, but I couldn't clean that. And so I want them to feel like I don't want to devalue anybody.
No, I mean, in other words, treated the same because this big puzzle, it takes every one of them to make the puzzle come together, so. And I feel like I'm like Mr. Smith now, every employee should be treated the same, so.
Well,
Okay,
it's
any more
gonna-
questions?
It's gonna be this plus raise, plus leave days, or what's it gonna be?
Now, what'd you say, David?
Got leave days on here too, we're gonna be looking at. And then, what about a raise? I mean, just gonna,
Well, it will affect her raise, I mean, what we're gonna do, but we have a plan to give her a raise. I mean, you know, it might, probably looking at next year, but this will change it a little bit, depending on where we're at, how much we save, and
What percentage
if
will be
they'll
able
let
to
us roll
do?
over and this and that, but, you know, we were wanting to get a pretty substantial raise in the next year or two, was our plan. So it wasn't concrete for next year, but I mean,
How's this gonna affect that?
but it's gonna affect it. I mean, it could or could not, depending on where we're at. You know, we just don't know to the end of the year.
You're talking about $500,000.
But it's like you said, you won't know until we put the budget together next year and see how we end this year.
We'll know when we start in March and when we get together where we're at, and we'll have a better feel where our fund balance is, and for the year, we'll have a good feel when we start putting it together.
I'm kinda like to know where it's at right now next year, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it'll be a little hard because, you know, you're halfway through the year right now. You know, if everything goes
Yeah.
smooth, it's going smooth, but like.
Right now, we'd be
It's
fine,
gonna-
but you got, the reason I'm not in the middle, you might have $5 diesel fee. I mean,
Yeah.
electric bills triple where they're at. We just,
What we're gonna do correct this, we have a big COVID outbreak, people's out, and they're gonna do the same thing, keep doing this, and people gonna be expecting it. You know, we should do one.
This is a one-time deal. One time. You have questions? COVID-19 leave, you wanted to touch on that?
I contacted every system that I could around. I'm not saying I contacted some of them I couldn't get a hold of, but I got a hold of everybody I could. To my knowledge, I couldn't find anybody doing anything different than sick leave days, what we've already got established, okay? There is two, I got to think Randy could probably elaborate more on this. The county's got a COVID sick leave policy, is that correct? We found one, Tracy brought it to me, a new one that,
Maybe not.
okay, I was hoping you
I haven't
could.
used any of it.
Yeah,
so-
it was a 80-hour, I think it's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
It's in there.
It's an 80-hour
Yeah.
deal. The only other one I could find, Tosh recommended one for Nashville schools, and it was basically, you could get 2 10-day leaves within a period of a year. But to get that to qualify, you had to show proof that you'd taken the shot. So that was the stipulation. Those are the two policies we could find for examples. There are the three. One's nobody around us is doing anything. Two, it's an 80-hour, or we could develop our own within. So if you give us some direction,
That's in there too. Tracy developed one.
yeah, we'll be happy to sit down and go in that direction and make a presentation to you.
You think, well,
When I brought this up, my main thing was, when we changed policies, was I wanted to make sure those that lost their time and their money at the first of the year, because of our prior policy, got that back. I don't think COVID is as much of an issue right now as it was then. So I really don't see the need for those days now, but I still would like those that lost those days because of our prior policy reimbursed.
Well, and that's something as a board. Scotty made a good point that we had budgeted money for those people. It would still cost you some money realistically and subs, but you're talking about a minimal amount. And I guess the world's based on an honor system. That's something the boards usually do. And am I gonna say that everybody's gonna be perfect? No, I hope they are. But, we would probably ask for some type of proof that they did, or you could go on honor system up to X number of days of reimbursement. I won't mention the name, there's one at Scotty at your school, teacher done a fantastic job, sick as a dog, taught every day, didn't get a dime out of it, but she took her sick leave days. Those are the kind of people that comes to mind. We had some young teachers I know that struggled because they didn't, the first year, bought houses and moved here. That's something, if you want us to come back and go tell us, we can come back with you and present a policy of something that, along the lines of what you're wanting us to come up with for the next time, a set amount of days, what you would want for us for proof, or no proof.
My argument was, if y'all remember, was we're not asking for more money. This money we've done budgeted. So why punish them for policy we've had, that we adopted? When the money's in place, we're not asking to spend outside the budget. That's what
Yes.
we
What's
discussed.
the policy we had in place?
Our COVID policy that forced them to quarantine or leave and burn their sick leave and all this, that, and the other. So the policy that we had in place, that we
State's policy.
ultimately
We
changed.
don't have a sick, this be the standard sick leave policy that you got in place right now.
So,
But
you know.
you're referring to the state policy, the
Yes.
CDC guidelines.
Yes, and so ultimately, when we changed that, you know, now these people that have been trying to comply with, you know, they've burned their leave and all that stuff, they've exhausted everything else, so if we see fit to change our policy as we've done, you know, I'm just thought, why can't we, since the money's already budgeted, why can't we reimburse them for what
It's
they've
in your
burned
packet,
and
the
done?
expired policy, you know, the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's why I read it, I just wanted to make sure,
yeah.
so we're giving the money for us following the guidelines. But now it's
Just about.
Anything else? Not, let's go on, we're running behind schedule
Well,
there.
I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt,
go
but do
ahead.
you want to give a direction on what you want us to develop and present at the next meeting?
Tracy's got one in here.
Huh?
Tracy has a.
Well, no, but the one they're talking about, those totally different, the one Tracy's, the ones that's,
I do want to say one thing, just from the perspective of the policy. Remember that your current policy still also requires them to stay home if they are positive themselves or if someone in their home is. So it hasn't stopped people from missing work either. We have, we still have teachers that have to stay out because they either test positive, their husband tests positive, or a child tests positive.
Well,
So.
we have sick days for that.
Right.
yeah, that's pretty standard for flu.
Right, but I'm just
Flu,
saying, if you're talking about
we
giving
have those
days
sick
back,
days.
they have to use their days for that as well, still, because of the policy.
Like I said, my main concern was to repay those that lost money and time, that shouldn't have lost money and time during that.
Randy,
Those,
I think the policy that she has, it says employees are entitled up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave during the 21-22 school year.
Mhm.
So she would go back and.
You think that one would cover it? I didn't think
This would
it
go
would.
back and cover.
That's something I want to look at and
That,
think
I
about.
think that's what she was thinking when she.
y'all want Mr. Smith
Yeah.
and Gina to get together and come up with, the next board meeting?
But
Well, does she have one right now?
Mhm,
You
it's
got
in your
one to
packet.
propose
It's in the
right now?
packet
It's in
here,
the
what we
packet.
got
it wouldn't be
now.
ready to be put on the agenda, though. You
Yeah.
ready to write something up and look at it and just put it on to be voted on next?
I think you should.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
That's-
Okay.
That's what I was wanting to.
Right, okay. All right, let's get on one other item right here, and then we'll get into a regular board session. These commercial advertising on school buses. I think there's been some concern from some people. First of all, Mr. Smith will not take any more blame than I do on it, because I thought it was an excellent idea. He asked me about it. I didn't see nothing wrong with it. Thought it was a good way to get some money, extra money in for bus drivers, because you all know that anytime you look on the news, nobody has bus drivers. I think right now, or
We're making it.
we're making. I thought it was an excellent idea. Some of you may have not thought it was such an excellent idea, but he's not taking 100%. I'll take 50% of whatever grief y'all want to put out there. Next thing I would like to also say is we will, before the 10 months is out on these contracts, Mr. Smith can come up with a policy on this, and we'll vote on it, and that's the way it'll be.
I thought we have a policy.
Well,
Okay.
that's TSBA recommended policy.
Yeah, that's just,
What Mr. McCallum had the last time he showed us, that is a sample TSBA policy. We have not adopted that
So what's
policy.
in our package here is
Is a sample policy that they produce. That is not a Smith County Board of Education.
We don't have a
policy.
policy.
We don't. Now, saying that, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get one. He and I talked after the meeting, because, the board can't get in a position of saying which advertisers want this route, or advertisers want to be on this bus because it's going the most places. And, the other option to that is possibly just do a bid situation. If the board chooses to set the cost, you've now got a baseline to set that cost on with what you've sold, and you can budget for that and prove it through that. But we had a long discussion after the meeting that, you can't be in a position of saying you get it versus you, and then before you know it, you'll be deciding who gets on what bus for what routes. You have to distance yourself, and this policy that is the sample kind of puts that on Mr. Smith, and he was able to find kind of a third-party administrator to do that and keep you out of it. But, you know, I think probably a policy, like he said, is a wise idea, but we don't have one. This is a sample that they produced probably a year and a half ago when we didn't do it. And there's nothing wrong with this, but by the same token, there's a statute that allows for this that we looked at, and we are in compliance with the law. They're no bigger than they're supposed to be, or where they're supposed to be on the buses themselves, and they're not advertising things like tobacco or other things that are strictly prohibited. So
Except that the board, we didn't approve the amount of money that we would.
the board did not set the cost, but there wasn't at that time a policy necessarily for that, but there can be. But again, if you go that route, I would just be real cautious in that, because you either kind of keep your distance from it. You could say, we're going to bid this as a package. You know, what we put it out, we spec it, put it out for bid as a package, or, you know, I don't get to vote, thankfully, but I would strongly get you to consider having a third-party administrator kind of sell these things for you, because you can't be in a position of picking and choosing who gets them.
What if we put it in the paper for highest bidder to make those?
I don't see any prohibition against necessarily bidding this. I think everybody was pretty well shocked at the response that came through once this went out, because you know, somebody
It was cheap advertising, very cheap.
It's very, I think so.
But what
I know Macon
what
County.
Marty's concerned about, and also too, and I think Randy touched on this also, you don't want a monopoly of advertisers. You know, put it out there, you get one bus, you know, and if we got any left over, you pull the names out of the hat, see if these people want, you call, see if they want another one, see if they want another one. That way you don't have a monopoly.
And the board can set those.
You know, I know Macon County rejected this idea. I'm just throwing it out there. They had this same idea and they rejected it because of what buses would seem to be more visual seen. Like I talked to you, Jamie, that a guy out in the country, his bus might be paying more, but the guy that's running a local, I'm just saying that's the reason they rejected it.
And that, Mr. Allen brings a good point about the monopoly too. You also got to be careful. You can't be in a position to dictate what routes are going to get this advertising, because obviously, you know, we all know you have buses that travel through town, and you have buses that are in more remote rural areas. They're just not going to be seen as much.
You can set the price level on that.
So the state, what me and you talked about, that's not, we don't have to buy to this right here, the commercial advertising on school buses, we don't.
Well, it's not our policy at this point. It's what TSBA is recommending. Yes, sir.
Well, so how do you determine what guidelines you use, Jamie, on setting board policy for something like that? How do you determine it? These guidelines right here?
You determine it. And we rely heavily, you pay quite a bit of money to the TSBA to update your policy book, to look at it, and to give you these samples. And that's one of their samples. And if you adopted that, I can't object to that, it'd be fine with it.
But the
we follow it.
Marty, I did not put it in your packet to adopt. It was a year and a half ago, because we did not advertise at that time.
Right.
So I didn't put it in there for y'all to adopt, because at that point, it was me.
But are we, I'm just saying this, are we totally legally compliant with what we did without the board approving the money that we accepted from the third-party advertisement? If they set whatever amount of money we took in, I'll say whatever that figure was.
I don't think we're compliant, yes.
Do you?
Because
Without the board?
you have no policy.
You have no policy.
There's no policy to govern.
But again, I think you need, I think you need one.
Yeah.
We can make a policy and govern from here on out.
Sure.
But Jamie, did you not say we would have been 100% in compliance with that other than setting the price anyway?
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at. We didn't set the price. I mean, if I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong, but we didn't set.
I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong.
We didn't set the price.
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm saying that
What
that wasn't our
We don't
policy.
have a policy, so we have to set the price.
Well, we'll have one next year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. In other words, we didn't violate anything because we didn't have a policy to violate.
Well,
So-
I'll say what's on my heart like this, to the board and the director. I have no problem with you guys trying to help the school make some money. I don't. But I just think that the board should have been involved in some of this, because we do roll call just about on everything we do spending money, correct? And we may have left some money laying on the table, Randy.
I'm sure we have.
We
But
could
that's
have left some
something that
big
we
money.
can fix
Yeah.
from here on out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or we could have
This is-
rejected it. We could have rejected it and said, hey, take the signs off.
We could have.
Yeah.
But I don't see us doing it because we need school bus drivers. And that's exactly where this goes. We need to give them money to work.
So is this money gonna be set aside just for the school bus
Yes.
drivers?
Yeah, that's.
100% goes in the school
100%
bus
goes-
funds for
It don't go
drivers
anywhere.
recruitment.
We don't, it's not for cooks, it's not for janitors, strictly goes into the bus system.
Can I just ask a question real quick, Mr. Attorney? We're tied into this for 10 more months, correct?
Yes,
Well, up
that's
to
it.
10, up to 10
Up to
months.
10 months?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. McCallum, we're hamstrung for up to 10 months right now like we are. So let's be studying about if we're going to do this kind of thing, what kind of policy we're going to have, and then at the end of that, let's develop us a policy and
Let's fix
roll on.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Because I
I
just know
disagree
how
with
hard it
everything
is
you
to-
said. I'm just saying we're
Advertising is
hamstrung.
big money. It's huge money.
It is, so when this thing is, before it exhausts, let's create us a policy to manage that, I agree.
And we'll all vote on it, and you can either agree or disagree.
Yeah.
You know, so,
And it may be something that you bid, that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do specs on.
So when will this thing expire, Jamie? Or director, I mean, both.
within 10, other words, from the time it started, it was a 10-month contract.
When did it start?
It'll be out when school's out, am I correct? When
Yeah.
school's over with, they stop running the buses, so the contract's out.
Okay.
Because those buses are going behind the fence and there's no signs being,
Gino made a good point. That'd be a great topic to talk to Tammy about at the school board retreat.
yeah, right.
We're trying to start a ledger, anything that y'all would like to talk about that day, with her, we'll put on it and bring it up.
Like Mr. Shoulders said, when the school bus gets parked behind that fence, they can take an advertising off when they're washing them buses, cleaning them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of letting it regular.
Anybody else gonna discuss anything? If not, we'll close this discussion. We'll get, how about, everybody take 5 minutes?